AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.
And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for joining us on this Monday afternoon. 104 right now, 9 degrees outside of Fargo. And man, what a foggy start. I'm meteorologist Justin Storm, and I'm here with Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And Bridgette, how is your afternoon going?
You know, things are going pretty well. And the fog wasn't here until the sun started to shine. And then she really rolled in thick for a bit. But it's a little bit
man,
better now. How about where you guys are?
It was
It's
so
better now.
foggy. Wait, what was that? Did you hear someone else, Bridgette?
I think there's that guy over your shoulders back.
He tried to.
Oh,
he tried to shut my mic off.
You want to join the show now?
I'll go home early. I'm fine with that. Go outside and enjoy this lovely weather.
He said he couldn't. The computer isn't working, so he's like, "I'm flying blind. Don't talk to me." And I'm like, "All right, we won't talk to you, Dean." Yeah, that other voice is Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki. And again, we're glad that you're joining us this afternoon. And I got a question. I got to ask. I want to pick Bridgette your brain and Dean your brain, and also the listeners' brain out there. So give us a call if you have a thought or an opinion on this. 701-293-9000 is the phone number to call into our studios. So you guys know that cars have flashers, like the caution lights, right?
I know where you're going with this.
Yeah, you know where I'm going because I already started venting to you. I did this on the coffee club a little bit earlier. Okay, the fog, really bad this morning. I'm going down the interstate. I'm losing cars like 150 feet in front of me with like near zero visibility. And we're going highway to interstate speeds. You know, we're cruising. It's not bad. Just can't see very far. And I start coming up on another vehicle, and I'm like, oh, wow, this is really bad. You know, go around them, keep on going a handful of miles down the road. Next thing I know, this other little shadow starts to pop up, but it's flashing lights. It's caution lights. I'm doing 65 miles an hour, and I'm running up on caution lights. I got 1 second to react. Is this car stopped in the middle of the road? Are they on the side of the road? What's going on? I don't know. I can barely even see them, and they're going at the same, highway speeds. They're doing like 60 miles an hour. But my question is that right to have your caution lights on if you're going down the interstate just because there's a lot of fog? And I get it. Maybe they were wanting to be, I want to be more visible to other people behind me, but it is not helping at all because I don't know what's happening. Maybe they're stopped. I can't tell. I got a fraction of a second to react if they're not moving.
Bridgette, you want to load in on this first? I know I have my 2 cents.
Okay, my first thought is, did anybody ask the highway patrol? Because I'm pretty sure there's a state law about when or if you're supposed to be using your caution lights. Frankly, I took driver's ed when I was about 13, so I don't really remember what that rule is. I'd have to check. And if you're going to go slower in that situation, wouldn't it be better just to get over on Highway 81 and maybe be out of the line of fire, so to speak,
right.
if you're moving
and there
at a slower
were
speed?
several vehicles that were doing this. And it's just like again, I don't know what's going on. Are you not moving? Because you hear all the stories of the vehicles that just stop on the interstate and then they get plowed into, like the two from last year that ended in a couple of deaths.
Well, here's one. I know in a heavy rainstorm, when it's a blinding rainstorm, instead of pulling over, a lot of cars will travel with their flashers on. So I mean, I think if it's bad weather, either A, you pull over, but if you can't pull over, I don't think it's a bad idea at all to ride with your flashers on, because that's telling you.
But even if you're going at the same speed of traffic,
it's kind of caution. It's like, hey, caution up here. That'd be great news. I'll shoot Jesse John a message here to see if you have or if somebody from the State Patrol or one of our wonderful Fargo or West Fargo police want to chime in on this. Is it illegal to travel if under the bad weather conditions with your hazards on? That's a good question.
Because like I said, I got 200 feet visibility. I'm doing 65 miles an hour. If I can't see a car, 200 feet in front of me, I have a second and a half to react, whether I have to slam on the brakes, go in the other lane, or even determine what's going on. So if you have a thought or an opinion on this, give us a call, 701-293-9000. Bridgette, do you got another comment before I send her over to ABC?
I think it's pretty important that we ask this question of our guest today, which will be Cindy Pulskamp. She's on the United Soybean Growers Board. Cindy farms up by Hillsboro. How about asking her, as a farmer, what she sees out on the road sometimes when it comes to hazard lights, flashing lights, etc.? I bet she'll have an opinion too.
Yeah, we'll have to ask her, and we'll get to that and so much more when our guest joins on. And I see we got callers starting to call in, so hang on just a moment, callers. We're going to go to ABC News, and we'll be right back.
Great.
From ABC News, I'm Richard Cantu. President Biden called it outrageous, the attack on government institutions in Brasilia, capital of Brazil, by supporters of ousted President Jair Bolsonaro. Some U.S. lawmakers want Bolsonaro sent back to Brazil.
Jair Bolsonaro is reportedly living in Florida as his supporters attack government buildings in Brazil's capital in a scene reminiscent of the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol. Supporters of Bolsonaro were seen cheering in Brazil's Senate chamber after smashing into the National Congress and Supreme Court, even calling for the military to overturn the election, which Bolsonaro lost to Lula da Silva.
ABC's Justin Finch, no fewer than 400 people in custody. President Biden now in Mexico City for the North American Leaders Summit. Earlier, he answered detractors and visited El Paso on the southern border.
As he arrived in Texas, the president was greeted by one of his harshest critics, Texas Governor Greg Abbott, handing the president a letter with his plans to deal with the crisis at the border. The president made an unscheduled stop at the border wall, meeting with Border Patrol agents. He then met with local leaders and toured a migrant processing facility.
If I could wave a wand, what would you want me to do most?
Their answer, funding.
ABC's Andrew Dimbert. After Kevin McCarthy secured the House speakership over the weekend, majority Republicans now turning to their investigation agenda.
He made it very clear he sees this as being a very important check to the Biden administration. He talks about how our system is built on checks and balances, how it's time to provide that check and balance to the Biden administration, from everything from subpoenas to investigations, and they're not going to waste any time moving forward with that.
ABC's Rachel Scott. Russia claims killing 600 Ukrainian troops in missile strikes on a barracks. Ukraine denies any casualties. You're listening to ABC News.
Paid for by U.S. Telecom. Closing the nation's digital divide is more important than ever. Broadband internet opens doors to education, jobs, and health care. America's broadband providers are making historic levels of investment, including $86 billion in 2021 alone, to bridge the divide. But millions of Americans, many in rural areas, still lack access to high-speed internet. New federal infrastructure investment will provide more than $42 billion to expand the nation's broadband connectivity. U.S. Telecom President and CEO Jonathan Spalter.
Broadband providers exist to connect communities to opportunity. We did this first through telephone lines and now high-speed internet. Working alongside our company's own investments, these once-in-a-generation federal funds can help achieve our shared goal of high-speed internet for all. State and local officials can lead by ensuring these funds are used wisely, by partnering with companies that have proven experience connecting our communities.
To learn more, visit ustelecom.org.
Hi, this is Kayla with Sanctuary and Riverhaven Event Centers, and I'm here to tell you why I chose 702 Communications for all of our managed services, phone, internet, and security cameras. At our event center, we have hundreds of people coming into our business weekly, and it's so important for us to have cameras that we can rely on. We reached out to 702 so that they could give us a quote for installing brand new cameras in all areas of our building, and now we have 26 cameras so that we know every part of our building is under surveillance and we're secure. We've had cameras in our business for a while, but we reached out to 702 because we were having issues. A lot of them weren't working all the time. So 702 was able to come in, give us a solution, fix everything, install all brand new cameras, and now we know we've got better audio, better quality, and we have an app that we use that has full surveillance 24 hours a day for us to pull up and know exactly what's going on. As a business owner, that peace of mind is invaluable.
If you want more peace of mind for your business that's invaluable, call 702 Communications right now at 218-250-8700. Again, 218-250-8700. Call now because peace of mind is priceless.
Victor deployed for the first time to Afghanistan in 2003. At 4 in the morning, my phone rang. They said, "I regret to inform you that your husband was wounded in action." Victor sustained a moderate traumatic brain injury. I was doing school full-time, and I was also then caring for Victor. One of the most important elements of caregiving is taking care of yourself. I just didn't want to forget that I also had goals and that I also had a life. What I did is I challenged Victor to meet me halfway. There are almost 6 million military and veteran caregivers across the nation. We have our own journey, and we can fulfill that journey at the same time that we are helping our loved one.
Visit aarp.org/caregiving for a free military veterans guide to navigate your caregiving journey and better care for your loved one and yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. Thanks for rejoining us. 1:14 this afternoon. I'm meteorologist Justin Storm with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Ag Director Bridgette Readel. And before we went to break, I asked you a question on your thoughts on this. I was driving on the interstate this morning, coming down to Fargo, doing about 70 miles an hour, and maybe I shouldn't have been going quite that fast. But
that's
the roads
surprisingly because you drive like a grandma.
Well, that's still under the speed limit.
Yeah.
But visibility was just a couple hundred feet with the dense fog and the visibility being affected with that. With the roads were fine, but coming up on another vehicle and their caution lights are flashing, and at 70 miles an hour, you only got a second to react with seeing a car 200 feet in front of you. So my question is, they're going at the right speed, or they're going highway speeds, but their flashers are on. I don't know if they're stopped, if they're on the side of the road, what's going on. So I want to pick your brain. Call in 701-293-9000 if you have an opinion on that. We're going to head over to the phone lines right now. And Kaylee, you had a comment on that, didn't you?
Yes, I did.
What is it?
Well, I was just calling in. I don't want to be rude or sound rude, but going that fast in that condition, you shouldn't be driving that fast. If the conditions are that bad and low visibility, everyone should be slowing down and using their hazards, I believe. I don't know what the law is regarding that, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure what the law is either, and I think Dean had reached out to Jesse Johnner.
I reached out to Jesse Johnner, and we'll see if he gets back to us here before the show is over, see if that is legal. I wouldn't think it's illegal because it does, and that's how those pileups happen. Is people are going in the dense fog, they're going too fast, and if there's an accident, you don't have time to react. So I think if people have their hazards on, I think that's an okay thing.
See, I feel like it's reserved for slow moving vehicles, or if you're pulled over on the side of the road. That's how I feel on it.
Well,
definitely side of the road.
On the side of the road, and I think a lot of people here, when there are weather conditions or slower moving traffic, they do put those on just to be more visible. I believe maybe everybody should have been slowing down in that condition if the fog was that bad.
Right, yeah, and the most vehicles were doing about 65, 70, and that was about the average speed of traffic, so...
Yeah.
But definitely agree.
Just to alert people.
Mm-hmm. And then, Kaylee, you also had a question as well, didn't you?
No, my question was just why be traveling that fast when the visibility is so low?
Exactly.
Well, appreciate you calling in, Kaylee, and thanks for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Yep,
thanks,
have a great rest of your day.
You too, thank you.
Yeah. And we'll probably have to be dealing with those conditions again tomorrow morning. It's going to be something very similar setup. So we'll have more dense fog redeveloping overnight tonight and lasting probably the same thing through tomorrow morning. So slow the roll and put your hazards on.
Yeah,
don't be doing 70 down the interstate when it's zero visibility. What are you thinking?
Well, when it was zero, I was doing 65.
Okay, that's a lot better.
But I was being passed by some people, but the general flow of traffic was about 65, maybe 70 miles an hour.
So back to that fog for just a second there, you guys. As we talk with our ag community more often, just remember there is a thought within the ag community that's right. 90 days from all of this, we're going to get heavy rain. So
or snow.
And I are in the LRC.
Maybe both.
What are we going to get, right? Is that going to be happening
I
or not?
think that lines up the first week or maybe first 10 days of April.
I think so, because all last week we had fog every morning. We had dense fog 5 mornings in a row. Yeah. So that would be the start of January, February, March, beginning of April. And if I'm not mistaken, I do believe that the LRC does have something on that first week in April. You'll have to check our calendar online, but because we've got it back in the back office. But I do believe there is something slated on the LRC for that first week in April.
Right. And we're going to head back over to the phone lines now. Virgil is joining us. Thanks for calling in. What are your thoughts on flashers and the fog and visibility?
Well, I used to be over the road, and our rule of thumb was back in, it was quite a few years ago, was 40 miles an hour and under, we would turn our flashers on.
Okay.
Also, these are dry road conditions now. 2-second rule. You pick a spot out, and if in 2 seconds you went beyond a spot, you're driving too fast for the conditions. Trucks for 4 seconds. So 70 miles an hour, 200 feet, I think you were whoever was probably traveling too fast for the conditions.
That's great advice, Virgil. I
That
like
is.
that. That's real good advice.
Yep. And I've heard of that rule before, the 2-second rule too. Yeah.
And
Yeah,
Virgil
now
did
keep in
say
mind
on
that's
dry
dry.
conditions.
Yeah, that's dry
Yes.
conditions.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it's 3 seconds on conditions that's dry, but you can't see. But yeah,
All right, well,
just got to take and count. Look, pick a spot out and count 1,001, 1,002. If you're by it, you're going way too fast for conditions.
all right. Well, appreciate the advice, Virgil, and thanks very much for listening.
All right, you have a great day.
Yep, you too. All right, we're going to send over to break here. We're going to get our guest all lined up. Bridgette, you want to introduce who that's going to be? I believe it's Cindy Pulskamp, right?
Cindy Pulskamp. Cindy is from Hillsborough, North Dakota. She's a farmer up there with soybeans, and she also recently got an appointment to the United Soybean Board. This is like West Point, people. It's the West Point of the USDA, and we'll find out why after we come back from break.
This is Outdoor Issues with Neil Roberts and North Dakota Game and Fish Outreach Biologist Greg Gullickson.
Greg, your department does a lot to provide content on your website, and a fairly new item is your podcast. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, that's right. In fact, one of the most recent ones is actually a podcast with our Game and Fish Director, Jeb Williams. And he talks a little bit about his history with the Game and Fish Department, where he came from, where he grew up, and some of his priorities, some of his goals for the North Dakota Game and Fish Department. And some other really good podcasts out there from state school land, wildlife issues, some fisheries issues. Check out those podcasts on the Game and Fish Department website, gf.nd.gov. We also do have a weekly webcast, and Jeb Williams, the director, again, was on that one recently and kind of did a year in review talking about the way North Dakota and the way our wildlife and fish resources did in the year 2022.
All right, good stuff, Greg. And hey, we'll have more on game and fish content when we come back.
Help the Minot Minotauros ring in the new year and light the lamp. The Toros celebrate Agriculture Appreciation Weekend and face off against the St. Cloud Norsemen January 5th, 6th, and 7th. Then the Aberdeen Wings January 13th and 14th at the Pepsi Rink at Mesa Arena. Puck drop is at 7:05 on the 5th and 7:35 the 6th through 14th. Get your tickets at GoToros.com or in the Toros Hockey mobile app. It's Minot Minotauros Hockey. Charge ahead.
You're gonna love this. Every Sunday at Slim Chickens, you get one kids meal for $1.99 with the purchase of one adult meal. They'll love our fresh kids chicken tender meal or the oh-so-good kids mac and cheese meal. Spend Sundays with Slims. It's as easy as that. We want to do our part to help your family any way we can. $1.99 kids meals. Dine in or drive through on Sundays only at Slim Chickens.
Talking North Dakota State Game and Fish content today on Outdoor Issues. And Greg, we mentioned the podcast before the break. What are some other examples?
Yeah, so we had the podcast, we have a webcast, we have weekly news release that goes out, and sometimes it covers multiple items. So check out the Game and Fish Department website for weekly news. We also have a video news program. We have the North Dakota Outdoors magazine. We also have another article entitled The Drift that talks a little bit about outdoor experiences. And a really unique one that our game wardens do is called Behind the Badge. And that talks about what game wardens do, some different scenarios that they run into in the field, and just a view from behind the badge.
Good stuff, Greg, and that brings this report to a close. If you missed one, check us on the website, OutdoorIssues.com. Until next time, I'm Neil Roberts.
You've been listening to Outdoor Issues, brought to you in part by Minot Minotauros Hockey, by Slim Chickens of Minot, and by Taco John's in Minot, Williston, Dickinson, Devils Lake, and Grand Forks.
And welcome to WDAY Weather and Ag in Focus. I'm Bridgette Readel, Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Meteorologist extraordinaire but too fast of a driver, Justin Storm.
You'll never hear those words uttered out of anybody's mouth that he's too fast of a driver. This is probably the only time.
I guess so.
Today. today we're getting all our licks in, so this is perfect.
Phone off.
And the fun will be is if our guest joins in on the harassment. I hope she does. That's Cindy Pulskamp. Cindy is from Hillsboro, North Dakota. She farms, and she's also recently been appointed to the United Soybean Council. So we've got lots of questions for you, Cindy, but first of all, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Well, thanks, Bridgette and Dean. Way too fast.
Yeah,
anyway,
Dean.
I was just saying, just keep harassing Justin way too fast.
There you go.
Thanks, Bridgette, for having me on board here. It's been a while. You and I have been conversing about this for a while. I am a farmer from Hillsboro, North Dakota. And in the last 20 years, my husband and I, we farm the soybeans, wheat, and sugar beets. And it has been fun for the first time probably in the last 4 years that we have had farming. Farming has been pretty challenging in the area. So in 2022, I can tell you I did actually enjoy farming for the first time in a couple of years.
And why is that, Cindy? Just because the crops were beneficial this year? Enough moisture?
A combination of everything. Thanks for the good question. We've had some definite weather challenges from late 18 all the way through 19. 19 was probably one of the worst years of farming that I've spoken to many farmers that I've experienced, but spoken to many farmers that they didn't have this bad of weather since back in the 60s. And so 20 was dry and 21 started off very wet and then it got real dry. And so 22 actually kind of culminated with we had a wet enough spring that it carried us through the fall, and we had nice crops, no complaints here. I know there's other places in the country that can complain, and so I'm going to just sit back and say, you know what, it was actually a good year.
That I'm happy to hear. So I've already started to get some messages sent in with questions for you, Cindy, but before we get to those, I want to just talk a little bit about what you're doing as a soybean grower these days and how that leads to your position as an appointment to the United Soybean Board. Can you give us a little background on that?
Okay, so I am part of the United Soybean Board, which is the national checkoff board. So I was selected by the North Dakota Soybean Council to represent the state, and then they presented my name to Secretary Vilsack through the USDA, and I had to be selected and approved. And with some of the changes that happened last fall, it took a few months. Normally the appointments happen in December, but I was appointed in March of 2022, and I serve along with 3 other directors from North Dakota, Darren Cadlick from Peasic, Matt Gast from Valley City, and Ryan Richards from Kindred. A great group of people to serve with. I serve on a board of 77. We represent 515,000 soybean growers across 30 states in the United States. And so my part is to take what we have and put it into research and education and promotion of United Soybeans, not only throughout the United States, but throughout the world.
If you're on a 77-person board, how do you get anything done? I just, that fascinates me with that many people being involved. How does this work?
It is very impressive. They break the board into different committees, and we each then spearhead. I happen to be on what they call demand, and demand is, I guess, what people are looking to, where is the future of soybeans going? And within that committee, there are 3 other committees, and I happen to serve on the Innovation and Technology Committee. There's also infrastructure and the health and nutrition committees too. So they take your skills and your desires and where you want to focus your background in, and they break you down into multiple groups, multiple committees, and then they put us to work, and boy, do they put us to work.
Well, with being in the demand part of the committee, I would imagine you're probably hearing from a lot of people out there that are farming. What are some of the things that they're asking for, or things that you're trying to work on or implement?
So I call soybeans the lean green miracle bean. And it is because there is so many opportunities that it's in tires, it's in your tennis shoes, it's on road asphalt, it's in food, it's an animal meal. There's so many different things that it can be used for. And so in innovation and technology, when I'm looking to the growers, they want to know, where is, when you crush it, what is the oil being used for? Mm-hmm. When you do crush it, what is the meal being used for? What is the whole being used for? And what we do is we work with various organizations throughout the country, and we look to them and say, okay, we have this demand for biodiesel. It's huge right now. And they're looking to put it in your tanks in your car, in your pickup, in your semi-truck, in your combine, everything like that. So how can that happen? Because there's a lot of science that has to go behind making that happen. So it's utilizing and putting a greater value to something that we already produce and do a great job in the United States of producing it. And now let's get some value out of it.
I'd say there's a lot of value, and I'm looking forward to asking more questions about the innovation. So it is 1:30 in the afternoon. We will hit the bottom of the hour. We'll be right back with Cindy Pulskamp. She is our guest today. She farms at Hillsborough, North Dakota. She's also a recent appointee to the United States Soybean Board, and we've got more questions about global travel, some of the checkoff dollar questions that maybe from her perspective as a farmer. I've already got one in my inbox to pose to you, Cindy, so we're going to do that when we return right after this.
Hey Flag listeners, this is Spencer Brandt from Media Shack LLC. We are your one-stop shop for business branding in Fargo. Whether it's decals, banners, vehicle graphics, custom apparel, and much more, we do it and we do it in-house. Check out our website at MediaShackFargo.com for more information, or on social media at MediaShackFargo. That's MediaShackFargo.com for all your business branding needs.
Do you suffer with stiff, achy, painful joints? Is pain keeping you from enjoying life to the fullest? Stop joint pain today with Xana Nutrition's A-Calm. A-Calm is a powerful topical cream that helps soothe muscles and sore joints while promoting healthy blood flow. This breakthrough formula is fast-acting and long-lasting, so you can face the day pain-free. It's also loaded with ingredients to help moisturize dry, cracked skin. If you're looking for less pain and more life, A-Calm is your answer. The result is a happier, healthier you. This revolutionary product has helped thousands of people feel better and get back to the lives they deserve. This month only, get 30% off your first order by using promo code 30 at xananutrition.com or by calling 866-420-6700. Again, that's promo code 30 at xananutrition.com or simply call 866-420-6700. Call now or miss out on living the life you deserve.
Are you suffering from neuropathy? Do you experience stabbing pain, numbness, tingling, or burning in your feet? Are you tired of sleepless nights and avoiding life due to pain? If you've been diagnosed with neuropathy or are experiencing pain or numbness in your feet, pick up the phone and call us right now before it's too late at 701-929-7545. Again, that's 701-929-7545. Neuropathy is a very serious and progressive disease where your nerves start to break down. Eventually, it leads to balance problems, falls, complete loss of independence, and it can lead to amputation. Our program addresses the underlying causes and doesn't simply mask your symptoms with medication. In fact, many patients start experiencing relief from neuropathy symptoms within weeks. There's no surgery and no use of prescription drugs. Pick up the phone right now and call 701-929-7545. Call us today at Dakota Clinic of Chiropractic at 701-929-7545 today.
Attention business owners, did you know that burglary and theft in Fargo is nearly 2 times higher than the national average? Walmart recently said that if theft doesn't slow down, they'll have to raise prices and shut down stores. Target projects they'll lose $600 million in net profits this year due to theft. As a business owner, you need to protect your business and your profits. You need a security solution. And right now, for a limited time only, 702 Communications is offering business security solutions that will protect you, your business, your employees, and your profits. To find out if you qualify for a 702 Communications business security solution, call right now at 218-304-8676. Again, that's 218-304-8676. Imagine the peace of mind you'll have knowing that your security solution is monitoring your business 24/7, 365. That peace of mind is priceless. So call now at 218-304-8676. Again, 218-304-8676.
If you haven't been to downtown Fargo lately, it's worth another look. With something new around every corner, you are bound to fall in love with your city all over again. Envision yourself in the heart of the energy and visit livedowntownfargo.com to see everything from historic character lots to brand new state-of-the-art apartments, all surrounded by locally owned shops and restaurants. Visit livedowntownfargo.com or call 701-430-8615 and find a new place to call home in downtown Fargo.
Thank you for joining us here on WDAY for Weather and Ag in Focus. So glad that you are joining us for the afternoon. And by us, I mean myself, Bridgette Readel, Ag Director, along with Chief Meteorologist Dean Wysocki and Justin Storm, Meteorologist Extraordinaire. And I'm going to use extraordinaire until I find you a different title. We'll work on that, Justin.
I got a couple.
I was going to say, I'm surprised Drives Too Fast didn't come up.
There will by the end of the day.
Oh,
Don't you worry.
I'm sure.
And there'll be a new nameplate on your desk, something in reference to Speedy Redbeard. That'd be you.
Speedy Redbeard.
So, meanwhile, we have a guest on this foggy afternoon, and that is Cindy Pulskamp. Cindy farms at Hillsboro, North Dakota. She also is a very recent appointee to the United Soybean Board, which again is an appointed position, not just running for an electoral vote. And Cindy, I had a message come in to my inbox asking me, and this is in your opinion as a farmer as well, in the era of high-priced seed, fertilizer, fuel, and chemistry, one should be able to opt out of the soybean checkoff dollars as well as corn checkoff instead of forcing you to pay for it. That doesn't seem right. What might you say to that as a fellow producer?
You know, I think every checkoff system faces those type of comments. And my response to that is, I'm a farmer. I know how to do what I do to the best of my ability. And my responsibility is to get the seed in the ground, get the best crop out, and get it to the elevator. At that point, I tend to not really know whatever happens to my product. And the reason why the checkoff is there is when we first got into soybeans quite a few years ago, the value of a soybean or a bushel of soybean at the elevator was probably around $7.50. And I think the last check I had last week, somewhere it was, or at the end of January or end of December, it was like $15.50. Now it's $14.90, I think is the last one. And those checkoff dollars go out to find new uses for the product to make it more valuable. So in the words of a former director that we lost way too soon in life, he said, we're going to take a few pennies out to put many dollars back in. And that is about the best comment I have ever heard in regard to using your checkoff dollars, is those dollars are used to go out and dream up new ways to use the product and new opportunities, and that makes your product much more valuable. Something as a farmer I can't do. I can't go to China myself and market my soybeans. And so we have many locations right now that can go out and do that for us. And it's because we use checkup dollars to lay down those foundations.
That's a really good way of putting that. Something I didn't really consider about. And, you know, for a lot of people, they probably don't understand, or maybe that understands the wrong word. They probably don't know how versatile the soybean is and what exactly it can all be used for. And you had kind of touched on this in our last segment. You had briefly brought up some of the things that they use it for, you know, all the different components to it, the oil, the bean, the husk, I believe it was, or something else, a shell. But could you list a couple of things that maybe people are like, wow, they use soybean in that? Because I know that they use the oil in electrical wires, like the plastic coating that goes on the outside to keep its flexibility and so it doesn't disintegrate. That's one of the purposes of soybean oil?
So if you have Goodyear tires, there's certain varieties of those. If you wear Skechers tennis shoes, it's on the soles of your tennis shoes. Going down the road, it's in asphalt. They've come up with a new way to mix it in. And obviously, we've heard much about the biodiesel and the fuel industry needing to go green. And there are many mandates that we're hearing out there. And basically, soybean industry is the part that actually led that and moving that into. So it's one of those things that without the research and the technology that the checkoff dollars added to, we would have never come up with these new ideas. As a farmer, I don't have the, I'm not a chemist or a super scientist is what I look at some of these guys that I talk to. Wow, they can just blow me away with what they know.
So can I add a couple of other items as well to that list for you, Cindy and Justin? Crayons, kids' crayons are often contain soybeans. A lot of folks buy candles, whether they're beeswax or also a soybean wax. Soybean actually burns longer and cleaner in most cases versus a number of others. When we talk about vegetable oils in cooking, often that contains soybean oil, which if you are a fan of mayonnaise, that would be a critical component. I have had questions from others saying, why do we talk about soybeans so often? Because they aren't for human consumption. We just feed them to livestock, and that would not be the case. They're a primary food ingredient for livestock, chickens, hogs, etc., but additionally for us as humans. So just a few more things for folks to realize why soybeans are so critical to our Red River Valley farming.
And Cindy, would you consider soybean the most versatile crop in terms of things they're used for, or would corn go above that?
Hemp's another good one.
Yeah. I'm going to say soybeans are, because you can use corn in the food grade and you can use corn in the animal foods, but we're now also talking adding it into, like you said, Justin, into plastics, into a variety of other things. You can eat it in tofu. It can be in your specific heart healthy soy oils that you use. Bridgette talked about candles. There's just so many things that this thing can be used for. In regard to when you break it down, the husk, it's kind of, you use every bit of it, and they use the type that America produces everywhere in the world. We're in 80 countries that we ship product to, and we export over 60% of the soybeans that we produce in this country. There is a demand for it. So that tells me that it's a pretty awesome bean.
So Cindy, you had mentioned that, you raise soybeans, you also have wheat and sugar beets. Do I dare ask which one's your favorite? I know we're talking about the United Soybean Board, but maybe you really like growing wheat and this is your time to share.
There's a great opportunity in each and every product. Wheat is an awesome rotational crop for me, because we use that as one of our sustainability options in doing weed management, because you can use that when we used to do pinto beans, and when we got into the soybeans, the world just changed on our farm for us. And the sugar beets have just been a long sustaining crop in the Red River Valley. So to say that I have a favorite depends on what time of the year it is. If it's 4 o'clock in the morning and it's freezing cold and I'm laying underneath a beet harvester trying to dig mud out, maybe not so much that day. If it's the 28th of November and I'm in a foot of snow trying to harvest soybeans, maybe not so much that day. Or if in 2019, 65% of our wheat crop is laying on the ground because it's too wet to harvest, not so much wheat that day either. So each day has its pleasures and each day has its pains.
All right, you two heard her. Better weather during harvest. This is all on you.
I do what I can do. I do what I can do.
Well, and Cindy, we use, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, but we use the long-term forecasting method called the LRC. And I know we helped out a lot of our farming community a couple of years ago, well, even last year when we knew it was going to be a wet spring. If you know ahead of time that, let's say we're going to have drier than normal conditions, are you more tend to plant more soybeans, or what would you do if you knew? what the weather was going to be like, 3, 4, 5 months in advance?
There is some options. You can plant probably a different variety of soybean, but due to the nature of crops and the rotation that you want to make sure that you're keeping to make sure you're creating sustainable soil issues, you don't want to put soybean on soybean on soybean, or sugar beet or sugar beet or sugar beet, So we as farmers want to be responsible. So there may be some shifting between soybeans and corn, or maybe a little less wheat, those different types of factors. But I don't see that I would stop raising one entire crop. I would look probably for a different variety that is maybe a lot more drought tolerant, or weed resistant, or something like that, that I would be able to shift that direction instead of actually just stop planting that variety completely, or that product completely.
That kind of leads into another direction. When it comes to soybeans and selecting what kind of soybean that you want to grow for the year, how many different varieties are out there? I'm sure there's, farmer A seed, B seed, C seed, but for the main characteristics of these seeds that make them so different from one another, how many different kind of varieties of soybean are there? There's some that just do really good in heat, some do good in drought, some need a lot of water, some are ready in 60 days, others are ready in 75. What's that look like?
Boy, you've probably done a little bit of homework here, I see. If we had about 45 minutes to an hour, I could probably touch gently on the overall topic that you're talking about here. But there are many characteristics. A lot of them have to do with the quality of soil that you have, the length of time that you're able to grow the bean. So every soybean has things like, is it iron chlorosis resistant? Is it susceptible to certain funguses or different types of weed pressure, GMO versus conventional, things like that. So everyone has their own on-farm, vision of what they want to do. And then they look to see if this is the type of soil I have to put it in, or that I'm going to put it in, where are the features within the genetics of that soybean. And I don't know if my arm is long enough to be able to list all of the varieties and the different choices that you would have in there. So there are many meetings that we go to and visits with different soybean producers, genetically grown producers, that talk to us about what is best, and then we make those decisions from there. So it's not an easy answer, and you just don't go out and go, oh, I'm going to pick number A, and here we go.
Right. Well, you did an excellent job at summing that up really quick. That was great, and I just think it's so fascinating, the selection you have. I mean, when I plant my garden, the first year I started doing it, I just went into Walmart and I grabbed a pack of corn and I grabbed this and that. Now I'm surfing through the internet. I was like, all right, which seed is better than this one? This one can do that one can't do this. It's I don't know. It just fascinates me on how far technology has gone with that. And do you know how, what that time frame has looked like for where, you had a couple selections and now you have numerous? Do you know what that looked like at all?
I did. There were years ago, and I think, Bridgette, you and I have probably known each other maybe 2 lifetimes ago. And when I first got into this, nobody raised soybeans north of I-94. It just didn't happen. Mm-hmm. And even before that, nobody raised them in South Dakota. So the genetics are changing so rampantly, but the world changed when the GMO, when Roundup Ready soybeans became available. The world changed. Probably one of, next to probably GPS, is probably one of the greatest changes in agriculture that was made available to American farmers, was the genetically modified. And so when you look back at what the I states were raising 25 years ago compared to what is out there now, it's like opening a Gurney catalog today. And I just got mine in the mail the other day, and it's like, ooh, it's like going through the candy store, And it's the same thing when you get some of the brochures for your soybeans, and any crop right now is producing that kind of opportunities for us in diversification.
That's super cool.
Yeah, and a lot of those hybrids and varieties, whether we're talking corn or soybeans, the advancements that we have made starting in the 60s and 70s were tremendous as we looked at drought tolerance and disease tolerance. In 1997, when Roundup Ready soybeans were introduced as a genetically modified crop, that also made a big impression and difference in our weed control, et cetera. So we've done a lot in those years. And Cindy, you've been a great guest today. You've been fun to visit with. Could you tell us if people wanted to catch up with you somewhere, social media wise, et cetera, or with your work with United Soybean Board, where could they do that?
Absolutely. I can be reached. First of all, I'd like to, if anyone in North Dakota has questions, we have two great organizations in North Dakota, the North Dakota Soybean Council, and Stephanie Sinner is the executive director there, and she would be willing to help answer any questions that have to do with soybean related in North Dakota. And then the North Dakota Soybean Growers Association, Nancy Johnson, and both of them are very, very educated on how soybeans are utilized in North Dakota and throughout the region. Anyone wants to get a hold of me, please call me. Call me nicely, and please don't call me before 7 or after 11. But I'm on Facebook under Cindy Pulskamp. My email address is cpulskamp@rrv.net. And if you email me, I'll give you my phone number.
That sounds awesome. Cindy, thank you so much for joining us. And folks, we will return right after an update from the American Ag Network, and we'll finish up with some weather and other ag headlines that are going on. Thanks again, Cindy. See you all here in just a few moments.
Do you know what people see when they Google you? Search engines don't always get it right, and when they're wrong, it's your reputation on the line. So what do you do when you don't agree with your search results? Call Reputation Defender at 800-401-6681. Reputation Defender by Norton is one of the most trusted names in online reputation repair. We have over a decade of experience in fixing people's search results, and we can help you too. Using cutting-edge approaches, Reputation Defender pushes unflattering information down to lower pages of your search results, where few people ever look. We also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, letting you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. You owe it to yourself to take control with Reputation Defender. Visit www.reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 for free advice on your situation. 800-401-6681. That's 800-401-6681.
2 kids, 1 paycheck. But I'm still gonna send them to college. With Sam, I can.
Business has fallen off at work, but I'm getting prepared for whatever the future holds. With Sam, I can.
I missed a mortgage payment, but now I'm turning things around. With Sam, I can.
Making ends meet on a tight budget, coping with job loss, struggling with overwhelming credit card bills. Whatever your financial challenge, with Sam, you can. Sam is Smart About Money, a free online resource from the National Endowment for Financial Education. We're an independent nonprofit foundation dedicated to helping people just like you get sound information about money. From everything from how to build an emergency fund to how to deal with job uncertainty, just remember, Sam I Can. SamICan.org.
I'm gonna feel in control again. With Sam, I can.
Get empowered. Reach your financial goals. Visit SamICan.org.
Grains mixed to lower, livestock higher on Monday. You're listening to the American Ag Network. of Jesse Allen with this closing market update. Well, we saw grains reject some of the highs throughout the day. We were trading firm to higher, but we gave much of that away as we worked into the close on Monday. It appears the midday GFS weather model update has added some better rain chances for Argentina and southern Brazil this coming weekend and early next week, and that helped us, it appears, to reject some of the gains here that we were seeing throughout the day. Soybean meal, after testing a new contract high in the overnight, has created a bearish chart signal. A little fresh news to drive the markets, leaving Argentine weather the primary focus of quarter soy traders. China's decision to reopen their border to travelers, officially ending their restrictive zero COVID policy, created some optimism for the markets early, but the stock market, along with grains, falling off their highs on the day. Live cattle, feeder cattle, and hogs had a decent recovery day on the day. Monday, though, finding some good support to start the week. Final numbers on Monday. Corn for March down 1 1/4, 652 3/4. July corn down 1, 647 1/4. March beans 4 lower, 1488 1/2. July beans down 6, 1495 3/4. March bean meal down 7.30. It's on 470.30. March bean oil up 18 points, 63.35. March Chicago wheat 2 lower, 7.41 1/2. July down 1, 7.55 1/4. March Kansas City wheat down 3 1/2, 8.28 1/2. KC wheat for July down 1 1/4, 8.22 1/2. Spring wheat March quarter penny higher, 9.02. July up 2 at 8.92 3/4. February hogs up 52, 80.80. April 115 higher at 90.80. Feeder cattle January up 92, 183.62. March up 65 at 186.30. Live cattle February up 97, 157.75. April live cattle up 85, 161.52. And June live cattle 90 higher, 157.45 on Monday. That's closing markets on the American Ag Network. I'm Jesse Allen.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us. Big thanks to Cindy for joining us as well. And we're going to hit on some ag topics, cover kind of national weather here real quick. Nationally, we're going to dodge another bullet here in the Northern Plains. We're going to get some light snow as we head into Tuesday night and Wednesday, but a huge storm system has just been absolutely inundating the California coast. Storm after storm after storm after storm. And yes, a piece of that is going to go to our south, giving a lot of precip to the central and southern plains, some in the form of snow. But we'll have a little piece of that break off. It's going to kind of break off into two pieces. We'll see a little bit of that Tuesday night here in the FM area, maybe an inch or so of snow. Not looking at a big deal. And then some, pretty quiet weather. That's been the pattern with the majority of these storms going south in this LRC cycle. Although, when they do decide to hit us, they hit us pretty good. So we'll wait and see what happens before the end of the month. LRC calendar has something around the 18th and then right around 24th through the 27th, something like that.
In there.
Yeah,
25th to 29th, there's a storm in there or something.
So, and then that should be followed by Arctic air, which we're missing it.
Yeah,
for the most part.
Nice temperatures.
I mean, not missing it as in like, I wish it was back, and we're just.
Oh, I miss it so much.
So some pretty quiet weather, a little snow later this week, tomorrow night, but we're still dealing with the fog. We're gonna have another round of this as we head into tomorrow morning, so just keep that in the back of your mind. And other than that, though, pretty normal temperatures and
teens and 20s for the most part for the rest of the week.
Yep.
Late overnight, morning fog. Maybe even break close to 30 next week, Dean.
It looks like maybe by Sunday.
Oh,
that's good snowshoeing weather, Bridgette. Not freezing.
Look, I don't want. I like that for me for snowshoeing weather, but I don't want to raid on your weather nerding out parade over there. I do need a little colder weather for some ice for agronomy on ice. So if you could do your best to keep that up for me, that'd be awesome.
Look at this. Look at that.
Right.
Too much snow. Too warm. Too cold. Bridgette, this is getting a little out of control now.
And I was reading an article about the soil depth of how deep the freeze line is, the frost line, freeze line, and remarkably, it's not that deep due to the thick snowpack.
Yeah.
So that should help when it comes springtime for melt, because then we'll allow more of that to soak in instead of just run off.
Absolutely, that'd be great. Although I did see a story over the weekend that Mississippi River levels are actually improving. They are starting to get a little bit better. All the tributary rivers are still low as well, but it's gone from probably what is normally a 6-lane highway to about a 2. Maybe now we're back up to about 3 lanes of traffic moving versus what it might normally be. So it's improving down there.
That's good news.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yes, it is for a lot of reasons.
Let's go back and do another ag topic now, Bridge. This is something that's affecting many, 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 many people, even here in the FM Metro. And why are eggs so expensive? I saw
we
went to go buy some the other day, and we were just going to pick up a half a dozen because we don't eat a lot of eggs, and we don't have a lot of time to cook. It was like $4 for 6 eggs.
Well, that seems outrageous. Also, by the way, 4 eggs is not a half dozen. I think that's what
6
you just
eggs.
said. So
6
thank you,
eggs for
because I thought you
$4.
said 4, and I'm like, good Lord, that's awful. Okay, so let's talk about egg prices. First of all, remember we talked about bird flu a lot this past summer?
Oh, yes.
2022 was the second largest number of birds euthanized in our collective history for bird flu. So those birds have not yet all been replaced or grown back up to start shooting out eggs, because it takes a little while. You don't just buy a chick and immediately it pops an egg out. So this takes a little bit of time.
It doesn't?
Yes, right. So when Dean gets his chickens, he'll have you come over so you can see how long this process takes.
Well, we just got the coop all set up this weekend.
The cow was trying to get in there too. I had to stop him from getting in there.
Got to send him out.
Kick him
Cindy Pulskamp just told us that our commodity prices like soybeans are up tremendously over the last few years. That's a major primary food source for chickens. That's up. Trucking costs as a perishable item. You don't just let them sit around on the loading dock. You've got to get those babies moved, and you're willing to pay top dollar to do so. Just got off a Christmas holiday where we were busy baking, and all of you who went to your New Year's resolution of losing weight on a high protein diet have a heavy demand for eggs because it's a cheaper protein source than beef or pork, etc. So all of those factors are contributing to the situation. Eggs probably won't come down for a while because we're ramping up for the Easter season where it's another high volume.
Oh, yeah, look at that. I forgot about Easter. All right, you thought a $4 a dozen egg was bad. Wait till it hits $6 and watch how people lose their mind. I'm calling it right now. But that'll do it for us here on Weather.
Buy some chickens.
Buy them. Raise them. Dean, give me eggs. That's all the time we got. We'll be back tomorrow, 1 to 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Jay Thomas Show is next.
970 WDAY AM and 93.1 FM, Fargo-Moorhead.